Previously on the recap sequence.
On this episode of the recap sequence, it's part 2 of our East Coast Comic Expo 10th Anniversary Celebration Series featuring ECCE guests Heather Antos, Nick Bradshaw, Ronn Sutton, and Stephanie Cooke. Enjoy the show.
Hey guys, it's Ryan here in the podcast room here at East Coast Comic Expo, and I'm super excited to welcome Heather Antos. Did I get that right?
You did.
Awesome. Welcome to East Coast Comic Expo, and welcome to Moncton.
Thank you. Really excited to be here. First time in New Brunswick.
Have you been to the East Coast before?
I live on the East Coast of I want to say America, but Canada is America, of the United States. But not East Coast Canada. This is my first time on East Coast Canada.
Welcome. I'm hoping that you might get a little bit of time then. Have you had any chance to experience any of the...
Tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, tomorrow Nick Bradshaw is going to take me around to see some stuff, so I'm excited, yeah.
That's awesome. So welcome to ECCE in the 10th anniversary.
Thank you.
Do you travel around and do a lot of cons then?
I do.
Okay, so you got a busy schedule, do you?
I do. I'm doing 15 shows this year.
Wow.
Yeah. I did 17 last year, so I'm taking a break this year.
Okay, wow, that's a lot. So is it like hop from Moncton to someone next week, or do you actually break it up enough to...
No, so Moncton is the end of a streak. I've been on a pretty weekly or every other week for April through June. I have 2 weeks off, which I'm really excited about. And then I'm in Denver July 4th weekend. So, but I get 2 weeks at home, which I'm thrilled about.
Now, if I get this, you work for IDW, correct?
I do, yes.
Okay. Can you explain a bit about what you do then?
Yeah, so I am the group editor of licensing at IDW Publishing, and basically what that means is I herd cats for a living. So as group editor, I not only edit my own line of comics, I personally oversee all the Star Trek comics for IDW, as well as a bunch of original comics. Most recently, I edited our critically acclaimed Exorcism at 1600 Pen.
Oh, wow.
I also oversee all of the dark lines, so all of our horror comics. So that's the recently announced Twilight Zone, Event Horizon, soon to be revealed, creative teams for Sleepy Hollow, A Quiet Place, Smile, all of that stuff. So horror's kind of my jam. So I do that, and I also oversee all the editors who work on all of the other licensed comics. But I don't edit those comics. I more so manage the licensor relationship.
Okay.
I basically am bad cop.
So I'm curious, and when your string of conventions, are you also working while you're doing these conventions, while you're traveling?
I'm always working. It never stops.
So how do you, when you're at these conventions, are people coming up to you showing you their work, or do you actually get a chance to actually enjoy a convention like this?
So it depends. When I'm at a comic show like East Coast Expo, like this one, I'm here as the creator. So I'm here for my own work or my independent work, because I do a lot of freelance editorial stuff for Image Comics as well, where I'm currently editing Bug Wars with Jason Aaron and Mahmoud Asrar. I also write and draw as well. I do commission. So I'm a bit of a weird anomaly where I do kind of everything. So I'm here as a creator. I do portfolio reviews at this con, but then there are cons that I'm at for IDW, like your New York Comic Cons and your San Diego's, where I'm specifically there wearing the editor hat, where I do the portfolio reviews and things like that.
So you have multiple hats, so you're changing hats constantly
all
with
the
every
time.
show.
Hats, shoes, blazers.
So as an artist and writer, obviously those traits help you as an editor then as well.
Yeah.
How did you get into the artist writing side of things?
I've always done it. My mom says I wrote and drew my own comics before I knew what they were. This is so nerdy. I won a lot of reading competitions as a kid. So I've just always done it.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, there's no real answer of when I got into it because it's just always been a part of my life.
That's incredible. So were there any like artists out there that were like references to you, or the ones that you looked up and said, this is who I want to sort of articulate my work after?
Yeah, so Pernilla Oram, who's actually an animator, she's an artist that I really love. If you look at my work compared to hers, you see you definitely see a lot of like inspiration. Tom Bancroft, a lot of animators are where my inspiration comes from. Steve Thompson, yeah, anyone who's seen my work it's very Disney golden era animated. I'm a kid of the 90s, so like
right.
That's that's what I grew up on. So yeah, that's definitely where a lot of it comes from.
So when you go to the shows and stuff, do you have people that come up? What do you tell people who are coming up going, I'm thinking of becoming an artist or drawing comics and stuff like that? What do you tell them, like, is their best course of action to go?
I tell them that you should probably start drawing comics then. You'd be surprised how many people who like, I really want to draw comics, what do I do? And then I ask them, well, have you ever drawn comics before? Have you ever like drawn a comic page? And they're like, no. And I'm like, well, start there then. Because that's the first thing as an editor I want to see. I want to see your portfolio. I'm not going to hire you to draw a comic if you have never, I don't know, drawn a comic before. If you think drawing one comic page is hard, try drawing 20. Try drawing 20 every month. Like, it's not easy. So yeah, it's the, what's that saying? You got to draw 10,000 pages, before you're considered an expert at anything. And so might as well get started, get them out of the way now.
So do you have a lot of people that come and go, oh my God, it sounds daunting, but actually go, I did it, here you go? Yeah,
I mean, look, I'm the first person to say anyone who wants to be a comic artist is a psychopath and insane, because it truly, like, it's an insane amount of work for very little reward. It's an incredible feat to draw a single comic, let alone those who do it professionally every single day for years and years and years. But yeah, no, it is very rewarding. I've had people who, I've met at shows years and years ago who, I will speak to at a panel or at my table or whatever, and I'll give advice about, starting to draw a comic, do their own thing. And then, I'll meet them at a show a year or a couple years later and be like, here, I did it. Here's my comic. You might not remember me, but, here it is.
They're super excited to show you.
Yeah. And it's really cool. It's really, really humbling. I was that same person.
Yeah.
I did that same thing, when I was trying to break in, and, I met other creators too. And they gave me advice. And then, I ran into them later and was like, look at me, I did it. So like, I get it. It's really cool. And I think that's one of the coolest things about this industry is it is sort of that like apprenticeship, mentorship type thing where it is always about like passing on advice to the next generation of creators, and you see it constantly, and it's really cool.
And it's kind of fun when you come to events like this, that this is really the comic-centric show in the Maritimes. That it'll be busy, but you also get, I think, a little bit more one-on-one time with people who come to your tables, which is as opposed to the big ones where they're lined up to meet you, and you're kind of you've got to keep the ball rolling, so to speak.
Yeah, it's nice. I like these like smaller shows. When I just did a show in Des Moines, Iowa, which again it's a much smaller. Everyone's like, why'd you go to Des Moines? And I'm like, because I've never been there, and it's kind of why I came here. I've never been there. I want to go. And I like the smaller shows. I like the quieter shows. You get to actually meet people. You get to actually have conversations. And comics exist everywhere. Your fans exist everywhere. They're not just in the big cities, and it is really cool to get to just like meet, and this part of the country is like so interesting. There's like some unique culture, and I didn't know all the like weird natural like nature stuff that happens out here.
See, you need to come back more often.
I do. No, Bradshaw's been yelling at me for years to come out here, and he finally made it happen. So here I am.
Well, we'll talk to him in our second half of the podcast. We'll thank him for bringing
there
you
you
up
go.
here. I have 2 questions for you, and we'll
Okay.
get you out of here. Real simple ones. As an artist, is there a bucket list or someone out there that you've never had an opportunity to work on that if it was ever to come down the road to present to you, you would jump at it? A character out there?
Oh God. I mean, James Bond.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, James Bond is like James Bond or Indiana Jones. Those are like my 2 like top tier fandoms
I love that.
I like. And it's funny, I've been blessed to get to work on like Star Wars and Star Trek and like all the Marvel characters and like all these super like high profile things that, you know, if I were to retire tomorrow, I'd be so incredibly lucky.
Yeah.
But man, like I would do anything to work on a James Bond comic.
Okay. I will just say this on our show. It's a never say never, because it literally, we asked this to Nick 2 years ago, and his answer was Rom.
Yeah.
And a year later, he did Rom versus the X-Men
Incredible.
cover. And that was just like, okay,
Incredible.
here it is, you know.
Nice.
So, and last one, we got a couple weeks,
Okay.
but Superman, Fantastic Four. You got a preference? I mean, you're fine if you're saying both, but if there's one you're more keen on looking at, we're asking everybody because we want curious.
I mean, Fantastic Four is Pedro Pascal. So
Okay, there it is. So we're even at 2 apiece right now
Oh.
after 5 interviews. So
okay,
Yep.
okay.
there it is. So I can't thank you enough for taking the time to talk to us today. I hope you enjoy the rest of East Coast Comic Expo and enjoy your day in the Maritimes tomorrow with Nick, and come back anytime.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're more than welcome to.
Awesome.
It's awesome.
This is Summer Glau, River Tam from Firefly, and you are listening to the recap sequence with Jamie and Ryan.
I'm with, well, I would say probably the man most synonymous with this convention, Nick Bradshaw. How are you, sir?
Good morning, guys.
Congratulations, 10 years on this.
I know, 10 years. We were talking about that actually when we were planning for it. The first one, we weren't sure how it was going to fly. We were expecting maybe 200 people through the door, and it's just kind of taken off from there. So we've been pretty pleased.
It's amazing when you look at this convention and see where it started
Yep.
in the curling club, and then all the way.
That's all we wanted, was something small that some little kids could come out and enjoy, and then all of a sudden it sort of exploded into this big thing.
A lot of creators who come here, they like it because it's a wonderful atmosphere.
Yeah, people come in, and it's generally a lot of people who aren't familiar with comics. So they come in with this kind of interesting query to ask questions about what it is they're working on. And they're always surprised to see, like, the swath of people, like, they don't really know names. They walk in and they'll see that, oh, you worked on Batman, and how's that? And then they'll ask questions about that. And then they can sort of segue into creator-owned projects or the type of stuff that they're into. And then you get people leaving here where they sort of become comic fans in a way, where they'll
Yep.
go look for that other material that they worked on. And there's like a no pressure thing with a small con like this, you know? It's like we're just sort of here to have a good time. It's like a day and a half event, so there's like no kind of commitment except for just talking and meeting people.
And it's funny that you would say, because I've always found we came for a couple on Friday nights, which was used to be slower, and it was more, centered around VIPs. But the last 2 years, I hear your Friday nights have been really good.
We actually had our best numbers last night of all our Fridays that we
Really?
had. Yeah, and we actually had people coming in to make sure they got their pre-sale tickets for today to come in today. So we're always kind of cruising towards, because we're nonprofit.
Right.
Like nobody's pocketing anything off of this. Like,
Yeah.
we raise money to pay for all of this to set it up every year. But this year we're actually in the black going into the weekend, which has never happened. So
Wow.
Yeah, we're always kind of biting our nails, waiting until 4 o'clock on Saturday to say, did we, are we going to have like repo men coming after us next week? But, so we're kind of happy. More to invest in for next year.
And the other thing I love about this, and you guys bring in some really neat guests from out of town, but it's also, aside from the little hiccup of COVID, you have all these independent creators and these amazing creators and writers across the Maritimes coming to these events.
Even from the States, like you were just talking about Heather Antos, I've been wanting to get like an editor here because they have a different perspective on the industry. And then Heather's a friend of mine. I worked with her at Marvel when she was my editor on projects. So when I was talking to her about it, she's like, I think I'd like to check it out and see
Right.
what it's about, because now she's editing books over at IDW.
Yeah.
And it's kind of neat that people can come in and get a different perspective on the whole process talking to an editor. Like, she does a lot more than just looking over the material. Like Heather's got to research. She's got to line up, contracts between licensors, and there's so much more to that job.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and we found out as well, talking to her, that, she wrote and drew comics.
Oh, yeah.
So I threw the question that I threw to you 3 years ago saying, do you have a bucket list of someone? And she was like this. And then I referenced you because you said, I want to do Rom. And then a year later we see you and it's the cover of X-Men versus Rom.
Yep.
And she's like, James Bond.
Oh,
I want to do James Bond.
Yeah, she'd do an awesome James Bond. If
him
they
or-
ever cast a female James Bond, it would probably be Heather.
Now, speaking of you have been quite busy this past year.
Yep.
When we talked to you last year, you had done one cover of a Godzilla book. And so they liked it so much they wanted you to do many more, and then they said, well, we got to sort of share it. And since then, as I hold in my hands, I know this is going to make for great TV, you've got the Daredevil one,
Yep.
which you did right there.
Where's it?
And then the one that I'm really proud of is the Spider-Man one that you actually did the full art for.
Yep, this one was fun. So I actually did 2 covers, layouts for that one. And one of them I finished up for a Spidey Godzilla piece just for a print. And I posted it online. And Marvel was like, that's a pretty cool jam up. They said, would you like to expand on that and do a whole book? And I was like, okay. So then all of a sudden I'm in touch with Joe Kelly. And then he's like giving me his pitch on it. And I'm like, oh, let's do it up. I'm totally down for this. And it was just a fun project to kind of organically fall into.
And it's because you don't do a lot of full books anymore. You're primarily
It's not
covers,
that I wouldn't
right?
want to. It's just
Right.
primarily they throw a lot of covers at me, and it's hard to say no. Like I do probably 70 to 80 covers over the course of a year.
Wow.
And if you do the math, a book is 20 pages, but covers take extra days. Like
Right.
for covers, you got to put a lot more work into them. So I love doing interior work, and I would take more interior work, but it's just a matter of scheduling to get them in there.
Because I noticed the next thing you have coming out soon is you did the cover for issue 4 of The Thing.
Yeah, but I also did the Marvel swimsuit issue. I did interiors on that too.
Did you really?
Oh yeah. So they asked if you want to do the Marvel swimsuit issue. I said, don't you want like pinup artists for that? They're like, no, we'd love you to do the story in between. I'm like, that I would do. I'm so down for that. So I got to do. It was 15 pages, and they gave me a month to do it.
Oh wow.
So I got to do pencils and inks. So I got to do like a 5-page story that's going to lead up to like the 5 pinups that come
Right.
after. So they're going to have like 5 pages, 5 pinups, 5 pages, 5 pinups. And it's basically all the heroes kind of getting recruited into doing the swimsuit issue, which is pretty funny. So,
And when is this out?
July.
All right, I gotta keep my eye open for that one. That's wow. I wasn't expecting that. At
Oh,
all.
I told Danica I can't wait to put the pages up on the website because there's some funny stuff I got to draw in that book. Like, I'm not going to spoil it, but there's a MODOK sequence in there I'm very proud of. So. And it's as weird as you would imagine.
Oh, that is awesome.
Yep.
Well, let me ask you about the other one, Bermuda. Where are we with that? Because that first
So
round was
there is
awesome.
a second arc of Bermuda finishing in the can. We just haven't got a place for it just yet.
Okay.
So we're waiting to find out what's going to happen with that. I'd love to get that one out the door. But there will probably be other projects in between before
Right.
that happens. So somebody had floated me a Rocketeer project possibly with IDW. Jason Aaron was talking to me in Calgary about maybe doing an Uncle Scrooge thing, which I would be all over that because that
my
would be a
God.
ton of fun.
What about the Micronauts? Where are we with that?
I don't know. I've asked. I'm constantly asking because it was funny when they got all those licenses back, especially for ROM. Like I was lucky to get like an email straight away. They were just like, "You want to do this?" I'm like, "Yes, I so want to do this." So, and then I was talking to Joe Kelly after we finished the Spidey thing. He's like, "What projects would you want to work on?" And I'm like, "Hey, if you could ever kind of kick around a ROM pitch to Marvel, I'd be down for that." So.
That's awesome. So, like I said in the past, we've asked you what your bucket list is of characters you'd love to work on. So I'm going to go a little different on this one here. In about 3 weeks, there are 2 big films coming out.
Yep.
Fantastic Four or Superman?
I'm a Marvel guy. Fantastic
Okay.
Four was like something I've wanted to see come to the screen in a good way, so I'm really excited for that movie, especially when they teased Galactus in the trailer and it looks like they finally got it right. So I'm down for that. But you know what? I'm still down for Superman. I trust James Gunn. I love what he does. Like, he took Guardians, which was a property that nobody knew, Guardians of the Galaxy, and he made it, I find, one of the best Marvel runs of movies that they had. Like, every single movie was consistently good,
Yeah.
and I enjoy them all. It was like the best arc out of all the characters I find they've done. And I don't know. I'm really excited to see what he can do with the DC stuff.
Well, I can say now that it's 3-2 for Fantastic Four.
Is it?
Yep. So
Okay.
far, asking everyone this morning. So
I'm very excited.
Nick, I know the conventions. We're into the halfway point now here. You guys will take a couple days off, decompress.
Oh God, no. So this is actually my first time on vacation for 3 years, consecutive days. Like I always take a day here or there. So I'm taking people around to go see the Maritimes a little bit tomorrow. And then after that, I'm taking the week off. I'm going out to my camp. I've been building a studio out on my lot in the sticks, and I'm getting back to that for next week. So.
When does the planning for 2026 start?
It's already started.
I thought so.
I've got a lot of projects already going. One of them is another Spidey project. I've got some covers I got to get at as soon as I'm off vacation, and
and then they're already planning for East Coast ECCE 2026 as well.
Yep, and since we had such a good year this year, it gives us more of a leg up to kick into the next year, so we're pretty excited about it.
Well, looking forward to it, man. You guys do such an awesome job here
Thank you.
anyways, and I mean, that's a testament to you and the entire team.
You know what?
People.
I show up to volunteer the day of now. Those guys, what they get done in a year is bonkers. Like, they're constantly applying for grants. They're organizing the volunteers. They're getting in touch with everybody. And I mean, they've done a good job. So it's just... This year just shows it. Everything's running efficiently. There's been no hiccups. I'm very proud of those guys, what they've been able to do with it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm not going to keep you any longer, sir.
Cool.
You have a wonderful rest of the day downstairs, and looking forward to seeing you in 2026 and everything else that's coming for you in 2025.
Thanks, guys. Always a pleasure to have you guys out. We really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you.
The recap sequence will return after these messages.
Hey, this is Jamie,
And this is Ryan.
and we're the Recap Sequence.
Be sure to tune in to us every Wednesday night on CHSR 97.9 FM or online at chsrfm.ca at 7 p.m. Atlantic, 6 p.m. Eastern.
And if you don't catch us live, you can catch our podcast on Spotify, on Amazon, anywhere you get your favorite podcasts. And we also have a YouTube channel you may have been watching, and if not, you should be. Catch us on YouTube at Recap Sequence.
And subscribe.
Subscribe, yeah, please.
We now return to the recap sequence.
My guest right now is Mr. Ronn Sutton. How are you, sir?
I'm fine. I'm having a good time.
Welcome to Moncton.
Thank you.
Have you been in this area before?
Once when I was about 10 years old, so I don't remember much of it.
Well, I hope you're going to get a chance to enjoy a bit of the maritime experience here.
Yes, we actually got to Magnetic Hill and we got to the zoo as well so far. So.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Wonderful.
And I went to a comic convention.
How's the convention treating you so far?
Actually, everybody involved has been treating us just wonderfully. We're having a wonderful time. I've sold a lot of drawings, actually, sketches, commissioned things, and prints, and a few books, and yeah, having a good time.
What are you getting mostly requested for with sketches?
Well, of course, I drew Elvira,
Yes.
Mistress of the Dark, for 9 years. So it's, and even though it's almost like 20 years since I stopped working on the book, that's the main request I always get is Elvira. So
Is that what you get recognized mostly for then as well?
pretty much. I mean, it's funny because it was, like I say, 9 years drawing Elvira, and but I've been on the Edgar Rice Burroughs comics for like 9 years, but people generally don't come up and ask for Carson of Venus sketches or
Right.
Korak sketches or whatever. Everybody likes the pretty girl. So.
Do you do a lot of conventions now? Like, what's your schedule for this year?
We don't have a lot. It's the next one we're doing, I guess, is the Ottawa Comic Con.
Okay.
We did another local Ottawa one earlier this year. I don't do a ton of them, but over the years, accumulated over the years, I mean, we've done Boston, Baltimore, San Diego, New York, Montreal, Toronto. We did Fan Expo 25 years in a row.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, I only do a few a year, but it adds up.
But do you notice a difference between going to something like Fan Expo or New York Comic Con and then coming to something like this?
Oh, yeah,
with
for
the-
sure. Well, I mean, first of all, it's the size difference is just incredible. And I mean, at the things like Fan Expo and what have you, I mean, there's so much more of an emphasis on the movie stars being there, and getting, autographs of William Shatner and Bruce Campbell and whoever else. And I mean, everything is bigger and it's more crazy, you know.
Right.
So this seems to be much more comic book oriented, which I really like. There seems to be a little shift these days towards more comics oriented conventions once again, you know.
When you go to comic conventions like this one here, do you, are you surprised about the amount of indie creators that are suddenly starting to crop up or that have popped up all over the place?
I don't know about that because, I mean, I've never been a Marvel and DC guy. I've been working in comics for 50 years, 52 years, I guess. And mostly it's been small publishers and independent companies and things I've worked with. So most of the people that gravitate towards me, you know, are those kind of people, the small press people.
Right.
And those are most of the names that I recognize of other artists. So.
One of the things we like to ask our guests with this, and this is, we alluded to this just a moment ago with the previous interview, this is the first time we've actually had people in the room with us.
Right.
Normally it's just a face-to-face.
Am I being rated?
Yes, exactly, you are, yeah. We're going to have a poll afterwards. When you're at these conventions, do you have people come up to you and, you know, ask you to look at their work, or do you have people come and say, how do I get into this? Like, what do you tell people?
Yeah, actually, I mean, it's funny because some conventions I go to and nobody ever comes and shows me their portfolio, but I had 2 separate people today that came up and showed me this stuff. And one of the people was quite good, actually. And I give them the best advice I can, although even though I've been doing it this long, I don't know what I'm doing, you know. And I don't know how I get work, because 90% of the work I get comes to me out of the blue, you know, the left field. You know, but it's, you know, I've been fortunate that, like I say, 9 years doing Elvira and then now 9 years dealing with Edgar Rice Burroughs. Because, I mean, when I was sort of a gun for hire, working for this guy at one point, and this guy for another point, and this guy next, and then this guy next. You know, I was always sort of scrambling around. I never knew who was honest and who wasn't, and who was going to pay me and who wasn't, and, you know, who was going to go out of business suddenly on me. So working with somebody for a long time, I've established a relationship with them. I know they're trustworthy, and I also am able to sort of create the character. Now, in the case of Elvira, I mean, Elvira is created by Cassandra Peterson, who created Elvira and, you know, owns all the copyrights. So when I was drawing the character, I mean, I kept sort of modifying and changing it so it's my version of Elvira. Right. It's not necessarily everybody else's version. And same with the Edgar Rice Burroughs stuff, as I've been going along, particularly on the Carson of Venus strip. When I first inherited Carson of Venus, he was literally wearing a black T-shirt and Lycra bicycle shorts, you know. And so the first thing I did was I went, well, we got to get this boy a helmet and a cape and some sandals and a sword, you know, and start raising the high adventure level on this stuff.
Yeah.
So I've sort of recreated it all. In fact, without telling anybody, I changed the logo on them as well, basing it on a 1929 Carson book.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm trying to be very, very old school in my approach.
So if I come and say, look, how do I get into this? What do I do? What do I have to do to get started? What would you tell me or tell someone who comes to your table?
Well, you know, again, it sort of depends on the quality of their work, you know, because, I mean, you can encourage people, but then there's no sense giving false hope to somebody who's not very good and has a long way to go yet. So, I mean, that's their first problem. The thing is, I mean, I'm not a digital guy, although the comics I'm doing now, all the Edgar Rice Burroughs stuff is all online comics, and I've done a lot of online comics. And I really sort of don't understand outside the world of paper publishing. You know, one of the people I was talking to today was saying he was thinking about self-publishing his comic, and I thought, well, that worked in the 1990s, but now, I mean, with all the fiascos going on with people like Diamond, you know, I don't know how you self-publish these days. You know, because the stores aren't receptive to that stuff, or the distributors aren't even receptive. So I know there's things like Kickstarter, and there's probably alternative ways to distribute stuff now that I'm not even aware of. But anyway, I sort of encourage them to draw better, tell them what I like about their work, tell them what they can improve, make suggestions of art that they should look at, and tell them to keep showing their stuff to people.
Is life drawing still a big component, would you say?
It isn't for me. I mean, again, I've been doing this for so long. I should life draw. I should be oil painting. I should be doing watercolors. I should be doing all sorts of things. But I'm very, very busy doing the 2 Edgar Rice Burroughs strips because they take me like 3 days a piece to do. So, I mean, that takes up my whole week, basically.
Yeah.
When you're starting out to draw, absolutely life drawing is important.
What's your so you said it's Ottawa Comic Con after this?
Yes, that's the next one.
And anything else coming up?
I
after that?
don't know. I've sort of got a few tires in the fire, as they say. Nothing absolutely planned at the moment. So.
When you come to conventions, so do you find? I know some creators will come, because they're here, but they will be working more on something like a deadline that's due than they would be doing something else. Do you find you're doing that, or are you more focused that I'm going to do the sketch requests and?
Here at the show, you mean?
Just in general.
Well, I mean, the Edgar Rice Burroughs stuff is all deadline driven,
right?
And the first thing I did for Edgar Rice Burroughs was I did The Man-Eater, adapting the 1918 novel, I think it is, or 1915 novel. We did 150 weeks. The Edgar Rice Burroughs people didn't start running it online until 40 were completed, so we always had that in the bag behind us,
Okay.
And with Carson of Venus, the third artist that was working on it quit rather abruptly, and they wanted to get the strip continuing to go, and I wanted to wait a couple months so that I could build up an inventory. Mm-hmm. But they didn't want to do that. So ever since I've started 4.5 years ago now, I've been basically on deadline ever since, Right now, the Korak strip that I'm drawing, which is Korak the Killer, who is the son of Tarzan, again, the Burroughs people are saying, okay, we'll wait until you have 40 done. So we have about half of that right at the moment.
Wow.
So, but as far as the shows go, I mean, here at the shows, I'm doing a lot of sketches for people and trying to juggle them a little bit so that nobody's hanging around too long waiting for their drawing.
Yeah.
Although I'm slow.
Well, listen, I'll ask you 2 quick questions.
Sure.
We'll get you out of here, back down the show.
Sure.
In your career, has there ever been a character out there in the comic book world that you've always, that's my bucket list, I'd love to be able to draw?
Well, funnily enough, one of them is Carson of Venus. In 1972, I moved to upstate New York and spent 2 months sleeping on Bernie Wrightson's living room couch until, as I like to say, he invited me to go get my own place. And at the same time, I mean, I was good friends with Jeff Jones, who lived nearby, the painter, and I used to see Michael Kaluta in New York City all the time, and Michael was drawing Carson of Venus then and doing a spectacular job. And right about the same time, I think it was Ballantine, but I'm not sure, started re-releasing the Burroughs books with brand new Frazetta covers. So I was buying those and reading those as fast as I could. And of course, I was reading the Carson of Venus books. So between Michael's Carson and the Burroughs reissues, I mean, that's one of the things I wanted to draw more than anything. So for the next several years, I submitted all kinds of Carson of Venus drawings to different places. And once I got involved with the Burroughs people, at one point, the second artist left Carson of Venus, and I said to them, I really, really, really want to draw Carson of Venus. I've wanted to draw him for 50 years, and they said no. And I got quite annoyed about it, actually. But what happened was I sat down and did some samples. That's one. And when the third guy quit, I had in hand color samples of what I was going to do with Carson and submitted them, and they said, go for it. The other character I've always wanted to draw, and I don't think I'm ever going to get a chance to do him professionally, is Flash Gordon, because I used to buy and read comics like any other kid, and in 1966, King Comics put out Flash Gordon #1, illustrated by Al Williamson. And it's at that point, I mean, I was a big Kirby fan and all that kind of stuff. And when the Al Williamson Flash Gordon comic came out, it kind of blew the top off my head. I kind of went, well, something's going on here, you know? And it really sort of changed my direction and what I thought about comics. And nowadays, Alex Raymond, who created Flash Gordon, and Al Williamson are amongst two of my very favorite, artists. And of course, growing up too, I was watching all the reruns of the Buster Crabbe serials. So it's something I've always wanted to do, but I don't think I'm ever going to get a chance, unfortunately.
Never say never.
Yeah,
That's what I've come to see, talking to all these comic creators out here, and asking them their bucket list, and then you find out a year later they're doing it. So.
Well, it took me 50 years to get Carson, so maybe in another 50 years I'll get Flash. Who knows?
Last one, a couple weeks from now, Fantastic Four, Superman. Any interest in either?
Quite frankly, I have no interest in any comic book movies.
Okay.
My feeling is what always drew me to comics and draws everybody is the artwork, the images. And as soon as you start making movies, adapting the comics into film, the first thing you jettison is the artwork. And of course, from that point on, they're rewriting all these characters and changing the costumes, and in some cases they're virtually unrecognizable. Yeah. So, I don't know.
That's why we ask. It's all an opinion piece.
Yeah,
right? So
I'm just not a fan of the films at all, any of them.
Ronn Sutton, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. I hope you enjoy the rest of East Coast Comic Expo. And don't be a stranger. Come back anytime here, because maritime hospitality.
Yeah, everybody's been super sweet, and it's been a blast, actually, this convention. So
thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
That.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This is Gareth David Lloyd, Yanto Jones from Doctor Who, and you are listening to the recap sequence with Jamie and Ryan.
Hey guys, it's Ryan here in the podcast room of the East Coast Comic Expo, and I'm with Stephanie Cooke. How are you?
I'm doing great, aside from losing my voice a little bit here, but I'm otherwise great.
Well, we won't take up a lot of your time then, but welcome to Moncton.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Have you been here before?
Yeah, I was just saying, I've made this journey many a time in my life. My family are from PEI.
Okay.
My parents live in PEI currently, so I made many road trips over my childhood from Ontario to PEI.
So you know the East Coast flavor then?
Yeah. We piled into a car with 3 cats, a dog, and sometimes my grandmother, and it was definitely an adventure.
Sounds like a trip to Wally World.
Yeah.
How's the con treating you so far?
It's great. Everyone's just so lovely. I'm in Toronto, so sometimes everybody's just they're just doing their own thing. They're here's these specific things, but everyone here is just so friendly. Everybody always wants to say hi. I had the same thing when I went to HowlCon too,
Okay.
That East Coast hospitality. Everyone's just so lovely and so curious about comics and happy to meet people and talk. So I love to yap, happy to oblige.
Do you do a lot of conventions then in the run of a year?
Yeah, I guess I don't do as many as I used to, but I do a lot of the local ones in Toronto,
Okay.
And I'm trying to kind of expand out a little bit. I hadn't really traveled much since the pandemic, and then I got a bit attached to just being at home. I have elderly pets, so it's just they need me. But
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
I sympathize.
I have do a lot of all ages and middle grade stuff, and that audience really isn't online. So if I really kind of want to connect and see the people that are reading what I'm putting out into the world, the only way to do that is really getting out there
Right.
and going to shows. So it's otherwise just feels like things are going out into the ether and you're just who's reading my things? Are they even being bought? But it's so fun to actually get to talk to people who have been I've read this thing.
So you get off. It must be fun then when you come down. You see all these kids coming up and looking at your stuff there, and then mom and dad are going, "Okay, here we go. We're gonna have to." They want it, because it's obviously something like that. So, how did you get into the business?
Yeah, I've been around for ages. I actually started doing podcasting so long ago. I've technically in the grand scheme of things, my writing career is relatively new-ish because graphic novels take so long to make.
Yeah.
But when I lived in PEI full time for a year in my what I call my reset year. I was just I need a break. I need to go live in the woods for a while, and I started writing just for a news editing site. I was a movie editor, and I started I connected with some people who were making like a comics podcast and like joined in. I was like living in like rural PEI, and I was just like, I need friends. And so I really got started like connecting with the comics community through podcasting.
Yeah.
So this is like very familiar to me. Like,
Okay,
it's
well,
just
that's good to know.
Oh, back where I started.
You've come full circle.
Yeah, exactly.
There we go. So your process then for creating the comics that you put out there, like, what is your process as a writer?
Yeah, I mean, I have a plethora of ideas. And I guess, like, for me, figuring out which ones actually have, like, legs to them is something that is, like, kind of my most important thing. You know, I have ADHD. I love to yap. I love to kind of just, like, bounce around to things. And finding that focus and finding something that I'm going to really, like, be, like, I can find special characters in this. I can find kind of a special voice and like something that I really like feel passionate, excited about, you know, is sometimes like hard when you're just like, oh, this is fun. This is fun. Oh, what if I did this? So yeah, like narrowing it down. And then I just really like going back and forth with having a loose idea of the story and the world. And then it's like, what kind of characters would fit into this world? And I write a little bit more about like the characters and kind of like start to figure that out. And then it's like, as I'm figuring out who's in this world, it's like, oh, that'd be cool if they do something like this in this story. So for me, I really like character-driven stuff, and going back and forth with those as kind of my primary starting point helps me kind of build the stories that, you know, I'm excited to work on.
So how cool was it when you had your first one in your hands?
It was wild. Like, it just truly didn't feel real. Like, my first book came out in the pandemic, like, during lockdown. So, you know, like, that was, like, extra, like, where are my books? Who's buying them? And trying to, again, like, connect. And I didn't get to see them on, like, store shelves. But, you know, you get copies of them, and you're just like, I made this thing. Yeah. But also it's like weird because again, they take so long to make. So you're like, this was like 2-3 years ago. Like, I'm a different person.
Right.
Like, it's just, but it never gets any less cool, you know? Like, when my very first story that I sold to a publisher was my book Paranorthern. And when I was a kid, my great grandmother and my great aunt would take me, or for Christmas would get me a gift certificate for the bookstore. And I didn't really, like, we didn't have a lot of money, so this was like the one time a year that I like had a chance to like buy the books I wanted. And I was in that store shopping when my agent had called me and was like, we've sold this. And I'm sure there's footage somewhere, and they thought I was like nuts. I was like, ah! Like actually like flailing around doing like a little dance. But it was just like, that was like surreal. And then like going to that store and seeing my books there, you know, like there's truly like nothing better. And seeing the things that you just like wrote on a page come to life with like an artist's vision is just like mind-blowing.
Since you started to now, has your process simplified at all, or is it still just seeing, you know, all these ideas and?
Yeah, I think some of it is like streamlined in the sense that like I know more what editors are gonna like say and like what kind of they're looking for and things. And like, you know, I'm working on like a pitch right now. And I was like so stoked to be like almost done with it. I'm like, yeah, could get one out the door. Like, oh, it's gonna be great. It's gonna like chill for the summer. This will be on like submission. And then I was like, oh, the editor's gonna point out that I didn't have like this character, their arc didn't wrap up. Oh, I didn't like, you know, like, and then I'm realizing those things that like, you know, so now it doesn't have to go to the editor and like kind of like come back to me and be like, fix this, then we can like talk. Beforehand. Yeah, so I guess like there's more things that I'm like aware of. I'm like, every single project you should be learning something on. You know, you should be growing as a creator. If you're not like growing and learning, like, you know, I always want to kind of like figure things out and like get better as I go. And I think realistically, like, it doesn't necessarily simplify. It just kind of like, or easier. It doesn't really get easier or simplified. It just, you just learn more and you grow and you understand more of what the audience is looking for, what your publisher's looking for, what editors are looking for, and that can make it slightly easier, but it also sometimes makes it harder because you're like self-editing as you
Yes,
go.
that's true. It's fascinating to talk to someone like you because we talk to a lot of like artists and not as many writers. We do talk to authors and whatnot, but I'm curious, when you're at these kind of shows, do you have people come up to you and say, how do I get into this? How do I become a writer? What do you tell them?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really passionate about this because, like, I grew up in the middle of nowhere, and, you know, I truly had no clue how to become a writer. I loved to read, and my parents were not, like, discouraging, but I don't think they knew either. So, like, it wasn't even a question I asked, like, how do I become an author?
Right.
You know, like, it was just a thing, and I wrote all the time, but it was just like for me. And then I was like working at a movie store in Toronto, and we started going to like Fan Expo to like sell stuff. We sold like a bunch of like anime and all this stuff, and I was like into comics, but I hadn't really like started going into like the shows and kind of doing that. But that kind of like connected me to the community even more, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is so cool. I can like talk to artists, and like I made friends with people, and I just started asking questions. You know, like I didn't really know what I was doing, but the more I just like talked to people and the more I kind of just like engaged, it helped me kind of break down those barriers. There's a lot of kind of like,
There's a lot of networking.
yeah, and it's, you know, it's not easy to figure out on your own. But I think I try really hard to kind of, I have resources on like my website to kind of help people navigate that, like pitch templates and all kinds of stuff to help kind of figure that out if people want to kind of pursue this.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately the best thing to do to kind of get started is, one, to just do it, just tell stories, which I know seems daunting, but like really, it's just dive in. And like two, just connect with your community. You know, like a lot of creators, it's intimidating sometimes, but people are really happy to help like usher in like new eras. Like I'm really stoked to see what everyone that comes after is going to be like doing. You know, there's so many resources online. There's so many ways for people to be self-taught now, and I'm like really, really excited to see what comes of that.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. If people are watching this after the show's all said and done, where can they find you? How can they follow you? Where are you these days?
Yeah, I'm pretty terminally online, but I'm trying to be a little less at the moment. But I'm pretty active on Instagram, which is Hello Cookie. But as social media is in flux, the best place to find me is my home base, which is stephaniecooke.ca.
Okay, there we have it. Stephanie, thank you so much for doing this. It's fantastic to talk to you. I hope you enjoy the rest of the convention this weekend. And I'd say don't be a stranger, but you know how to find your way back in here anyway. So anytime, come on home. Come home.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
On the next episode of the Recap Sequence, it's a wrap for our East Coast Comic Expo 10th Anniversary Celebration Series with ECCE guests Janet Hetherington, Jay Torres, Devin Taylor, Jared Lutz, and ECCE's very own Brent O'Hara. Thanks for watching.